reason I did it, not as some people think, to protest what was going on in the Eagle. No, I'm not a protester. I wasn't protesting. The boss finally came to grips. Nobody at Florida Audubon cared for my birds. My husband and I built the cages. We paid for the food, but Florida Audubon got credit for it. And so what happened, all of a sudden, they decide these birds need to be down at the Florida Audubon, where they would get more attention, and people would come by and give money to the Audubon for the Birds of Prey Center. A lady died, and she loved birds of prey. She didn't work with them, but she left a lot of money, and so that started the aviary. But we couldn't finish paying for it. So I was in the office with the boss, and he said, Doris, you've got to think of some way. You get tours I started leading tours all over the world, bird watching tours, and I've been to Africa 3 times, and Galapagos 3 times, and you name it, I've been there. Bird watching, in between doing all the other stuff. And he said, I want you to write to every one of the persons that were on your tour, see if you can get some money out of them, and you need to give talks. And so what happened is, I was sitting there and I said, you know, there's a man up in British Columbia that lived in an eagle's nest one night with his wife. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to go up in an eagle's nest. I want to see what it feels like. He said, that's it. He said, go up there. Go up in an eagle's nest, and maybe you can raise money to finish paying for the aviary at Florida Audubon. I said, they're not going to let me do that. He said, call whoever you have to call. So I called Bob Prather, the federal agent that was in charge of me up in Tallahassee. I said, Bob, would you let me live in an eagle's nest? I know what eagle's nest I want, because naturally I know all the nest in the area there. And I said, I know, the eagles are gone. He said, Doris, I can't give you that permission. And he said, I'll call Mr. Kennedy. Oh, I love Mr. Kennedy. He was up in Atlanta, Georgia, the big wig. And so he calls Mr. Kennedy, and Mr. Kennedy said, are you guys drinking? To live in an eagle's nest? And he said, it's going to have to go to Washington. Well, if it goes to Washington, you know, you're not going to get permission from Oman, right? And so you've got to get permission to do this, okay? And I'm going, okay, if it goes to Washington, we're not going to get any permission whatsoever. And so I'll be darned if he didn't call me back within 2 hours. He said, Doris, it's come back from Washington. They don't condone it, but they're not going to stop you. He said, go for it. So I said, well, what I'm going to do now, I was a jogger. And I said, what I'll do, every night I'll come down and I'll jog around the square over there because it was out in the wilderness. And he said, Bob Prather said, no, you will not. You go up in that eagle's nest and you're not going to come down for the days. So I picked the Eagles' Flag Day, June 14th, the Eagle's birthday, June 20th. I put those days, I'd go up in the nest and come down on the Eagle's birthday. And that's what I did. Now, we did raise money to finish the aviary. And I'm very pleased to say it broke my heart because I knew the handwriting was on the wall. And I knew that eventually I probably would leave Florida Audubon, which I did. But they have a beautiful aviary. And the kids, when I go there, I take my great horned owl and take my caracara and my eagles, and they trim all the talons. Because when you're coping talons, it's very hard to do it by yourself. Coping means that her talons are pretty good. And so when they get real sharp, it's just like your fingernails. And with a coping scissor. But you need to hold the bird down or wrap it up. Sometimes we'll do that. And then just cut the tip off. Sometimes they use a Dremel tool. I don't know what you guys do. A Dremel tool.
Dremel?
Yeah, I never did. If I did it by myself, on some